A movie called Ocean's 11 tells the story of a group of gifted masterminds planning to rob the money vault of a casino. This type of movie is probably one of your favorites because it's all about strategy, mind games, and tons of plot twists. Let's jump straight into it. The story begins in a prison in New Jersey, where we see an inmate named Danny going through a final social assessment interview to determine whether he's ready to return to society after spending several years behind bars. After serving 4 years for a major robbery case, Danny clearly hasn't learned his lesson. In fact, less than 24 hours after getting out of prison, he immediately goes to meet a fellow robber named Frank to ask for a little help. Next, Danny visits another partner in crime named Ryan, probably the person who has worked with him the longest. Danny, who has loved stealing ever since he was a kid, convinces Ryan to pull off another heist with the promise of a huge payoff. And this time, they're not aiming small. Their target is the vault holding the money of the 3 biggest casinos in Las Vegas, using a vault scheme that Frank had previously stolen. Those 3 casinos store all their money inside one ultra-high-tech vault that seems impossible to crack. To pull this off, they'll need at least a dozen highly talented people skilled in deception, disguise, and trickery. Ryan explains that they need distractions, informants, insiders, hackers, fake technicians, and all sorts of specialists to make the plan work. The problem is, even after gathering all these talented people, they still need a massive amount of money to buy the equipment and supplies for the job. Luckily, Danny already has a solution. His name is Ruben, an old friend and the owner of a small casino whom Danny asks for help. When Ruben hears Danny talking about the kind of security systems casino owners use, he gets curious about which casinos they're planning to rob. The Bellagio, the Mirage, and the MGM Grand. Turns out all 3 casinos belong to the richest businessman in Las Vegas, a man named Terry Benedict. Coincidentally, Ruben has a personal grudge against Terry because Terry forced one of his casinos out of business. Without hesitation, Ruben agrees to join the team. While Frank starts first by disguising himself as an employee, Danny continues gathering the rest of the crew. Among them are the Malloy brothers, who love carrying out crazy electronic experiments. On top of that, Danny also recruits a computer expert named Dell, who now works as an FBI informant. Danny then tells Ryan to recruit an expert bomb maker and veteran robber named Basher, who just so happens to be in the middle of another job at the time. Still in the process of recruiting elite thieves, Danny and Ryan travel all the way to Hong Kong to pick up one of their former crew members named Yen. After retiring from the robbery business, Yen now performs with an acrobatic circus troupe that regularly appears in traditional opera shows. Then there's Saul, a legendary con artist and gambling expert who's mastered every trick in the book. As an old friend, Ryan has no trouble convincing Saul to return for one last heist. Especially after hearing how much money they could make, Saul immediately agrees to join the team. Finally, Danny visits a skilled pickpocket named Linus. Technically, Linus was never part of Danny's old crew. But years ago, Linus's father was Danny's right-hand man and owed him a huge debt, so Linus feels obligated to repay that favor. This is where all the thieves, Danny's former crew members, gather at Ruben's house to discuss the casino robbery plan. There are 3 major casinos located right next to each other. Danny explains that all the money from those casinos is stored inside one central vault. The vault is located 60 meters underground and protected with security comparable to a nuclear storage facility. Every door leading to the vault requires an 8-digit random code that changes every 12 hours. First, we have to get inside the casino. But that's only the beginning. Even if Danny and the others manage to get in, there are still fingerprint scans and voice recognition systems required just to make the elevator move downward. And if they even think about sneaking through the tunnels, there are motion detectors that are impossible to disable. Yen then asks, if the security is that insane, why don't we just dig a tunnel? Ryan explains that within a 90-meter radius, Terry has planted advanced sensors everywhere. Not even a rat could pass through without Terry finding out. Unlike Yen, Saul is more concerned about something else. Even if Danny manages to steal all the money, how are they supposed to escape without the guards noticing? Danny keeps his surprise plan a secret, but he confidently assures Saul that getting out will actually be easier than getting in. Based on the information Frank gathered earlier about how much money is stored inside the vault, everyone is completely shocked after hearing the total amount, $150 million, an absolutely insane amount of money. As the first step of the operation, Danny assigns Linus, Frank, and the Malloy brothers to study every routine inside the casinos. They monitor employee shift rotations, cash trolley routes, security guard patrols, which staff members have security clearance, and even what they usually do during their break times. Meanwhile, Basher heads to the underground water drainage system to inspect the electrical installations that they plan to shut down later. The next phase is surveillance. Danny wants complete control over monitoring every activity inside the casino, so he assigns Del to handle the job. Using a paid escort to seduce one of the casino employees, Ryan successfully steals a security access card and immediately hands it over to Del for the disguise operation. While the Malloy brothers create chaos inside the casino as a distraction, Del disguises himself as a security guard and successfully passes through the security checkpoints. Following a map sketched on the palm of his hand, he eventually manages to enter the server room. After installing a device to hack the CCTV system, Del intentionally crosses paths with a casino employee who begins to suspect his behavior. Things get even worse when the sweat on Del's hand slowly erases the map he drew earlier, leaving him confused and struggling to find his way out. Del panics even more when the employee suddenly shouts his name. But luckily, the employee only wanted to return the tools Del accidentally left behind in the server room. Knowing this could become the craziest robbery in history, the team realizes they need a flawless strategy if they want everything to go smoothly. So, several weeks before the heist, Danny uses Ruben's money to build a full simulation room of the vault system. As for Saul, his role is to disguise himself as an international arms dealer who must establish direct contact with Terry. Using Ruben's money again, Saul and the Malloy brothers head to the casino and begin gambling among wealthy elites to attract Terry's attention. And this is Terry Benedict, the richest businessman in Las Vegas and the owner of the 3 giant casinos Danny's crew plans to rob. Terry routinely visits the main casino every afternoon until late at night. He never misses the chance to greet wealthy gamblers personally to maintain the casino's prestigious image. After socializing with guests, Terry returns to business by checking a black folder containing the casino's daily financial reports. Inside that same folder is the 6-digit random code used to open the vault doors, and the updated code is always delivered exactly 2 minutes after it changes. As the man assigned to monitor Terry, Linus also reveals that Terry is nowhere near as kind and friendly as he appears. The last person who crossed him ended up spending 10 years in prison. Not only that, Terry made sure the victim's entire family and relatives suffered as well. Before leaving the casino, Terry also routinely visits his girlfriend, who turns out to be Danny's legal wife, Tess. Suspecting there may be a personal motive behind the robbery mission, Ryan quickly returns to confront Danny about it. That's when Danny finally admits the truth. Terry stole Tess away from him while he was in prison, and yes, Danny does have a personal grudge against him. However, Danny also says that if things go wrong and he's forced to choose between the money and getting Tess back, then Ryan and the crew will always remain his true family. Back to Saul, who is pretending to be a wealthy gambler. He finally succeeds in catching Terry's attention after winning multiple games in a row. Curious about this mysterious new face inside his casino, Terry orders his assistant to bring Saul to him. Saul gets straight to the point. He claims to be an international weapons dealer currently doing business in Las Vegas. After hearing that Terry's casino has one of the most advanced vaults in the world, Saul says he's interested in using Terry's security services to store a shipment of highly valuable diamonds that will supposedly arrive within the next few days. At the same time, Danny secretly visits the casino just to check on Tess, who no longer sees him as her husband. Their meeting is eventually discovered by Terry, who has just finished speaking with Saul. As someone who has known Tess for a long time and understands her past, Terry already knows exactly who Danny is, including the reason Danny went to prison in the first place. But out of respect for Tess's feelings, Terry chooses to tolerate Danny's presence there. Not long after that, Danny and the crew gather inside the fake vault simulation room for one final test run. Using Yen's incredible acrobatic skills, they plan to hide him inside a money cart beneath Saul's diamond case. From there, Yen must sneak out without triggering the motion sensors. A little later, Basher, the explosives expert, arrives with bad news. The casino's electrical installation route they plan to sabotage has just been inspected by utility workers, something they routinely do every week. During the inspection, the workers unknowingly sealed the exact weak spot Basher intended to use. That's when Basher suddenly remembers a device called the Z machine, a machine capable of generating an enormous electromagnetic shockwave, almost comparable to a nuclear blast, but without physically destroying anything. The machine was never mass-produced, meaning the only option is to steal it from a university in California where a group of professors developed it. When they arrive at the university, Danny tells Linus to stay in the car while the others retrieve the machine. But instead of listening, the bored Linus sneaks inside right when Danny and the crew are carrying the machine out through another exit. Rather than going smoothly, the operation turns into chaos as Linus ends up being chased by campus security guards. Eventually, the night of the heist finally arrives. Thanks to Saul's exceptional manipulation skills, Terry agrees to store the so-called diamonds inside the main vault. After personally checking the suitcase and confirming its contents, Terry excuses himself because he still has other business to handle, leaving his assistant to oversee the process. Right after Terry walks away carrying the black folder containing the latest vault access code, Linus suddenly appears disguised as an FBI agent. Pretending to investigate a money laundering and fraud case involving Terry's employee Frank, Linus asks Terry to accompany him for questioning. A heated argument between Frank and Linus soon breaks out, but it's all part of the plan. Terry never realizes that during the commotion, Linus secretly pickpockets the paper containing the vault's security code before quickly leaving with Frank toward the fake FBI office. While Terry's attention is still distracted, it's finally the Malloy brothers' turn to move. Pushing a money cart toward the entrance of the main vault, they secretly hide Yen inside it, preparing for the most dangerous stage of the robbery. The Malloy brothers pretend they forgot the security key and temporarily leave the money cart with the guards right as Saul's suitcase is about to be taken into the vault. Meanwhile, for some reason, Danny decides to visit Tess again, saying he only wants to say goodbye to her one last time. What Danny doesn't realize is that Terry has already ordered all security guards to capture him immediately if he's seen near Tess again. Danny is eventually dragged into an empty storage room and told to wait because Terry supposedly wants to speak with him privately. But instead of Terry showing up after nearly half an hour, a group of thugs suddenly arrives to beat Danny up. A little later, it's revealed that the thugs are actually Danny's own men who were secretly paid to help him. While Danny escapes through the roof, the fake thugs begin smashing lockers and making loud noises to fool the guards outside into thinking they're brutally attacking him. Back to Linus, who has finally arrived at the elevator leading down to the main vault. Saul suddenly pretends to faint, distracting the two CCTV operators so Linus can move unnoticed. The moment both guards lose focus, Dell immediately begins hijacking the CCTV feeds. Once Linus enters the elevator, Danny is already waiting above the shaft, ready to break in through the maintenance tunnel. Not far from the casino, Basher has just finished preparing the electromagnetic device designed to shut down the building's power system. The instant the motion detectors inside the tunnel go offline, Danny and Linus quickly descend because they only have 30 seconds before the electricity comes back on. Now only one final door remains, heavily guarded by two massive security officers. Danny instantly knocks them both out using a smoke bomb, while Linus quickly enters the stolen security code. All they can do now is wait for Yen's signal. At that moment, Yen has just climbed out of the money cart. Saul's so-called diamond suitcase is actually a small bomb meant to blow open the final vault door. But if Yen fails to avoid the laser motion detectors, the entire mission will be ruined. Perched on top of the massive steel vault door, Yen carefully places the explosive charges one by one, while Danny waits outside holding the remote detonator. Once everything is ready, Danny triggers the explosion and blasts the vault open. Not long after, Tess, who is currently with Terry, suddenly hears a phone ringing from inside Terry's jacket pocket even though Terry clearly isn't carrying a phone. Suspicious, Terry answers the call and discovers it's Ryan on the other end. Without hesitation, Ryan openly admits that Terry's casino vault is being robbed at that very moment. At first, Terry thinks it's some kind of prank call, but he's forced to believe it after checking the CCTV feed and seeing masked robbers inside the vault room. That's when Tess finally remembers something from her last meeting with Danny. He secretly slipped a phone into Terry's jacket pocket without anyone noticing. Before she can tell Terry, however, he orders her to leave for the restaurant first and promises he'll join her later. Back on the phone, Ryan explains the situation clearly. He says they only plan to steal half the money inside the vault, around $80 million, on one condition. Terry must allow the casino staff to load the money into a white van waiting outside the casino. Ryan also warns Terry that the remaining money inside the vault has been rigged with explosives along with the robbers still inside. If Terry tries anything or refuses to let them leave alive, then all the money will go up in flames. Without Ryan noticing, Terry quickly orders his assistant to contact the police and request a tactical response team immediately. But until they arrive, Terry has no choice but to follow Ryan's instructions and order his own casino employees to carry the money outside. After Ryan's van leaves carrying half of Terry's money, the tactical police team finally arrives to capture the robbers supposedly still trapped inside the vault. Using night vision goggles to speed up the operation, the team captain orders Terry to shut off the electricity for a moment. And the instant the power comes back on, Terry is horrified to discover that the remaining money inside the vault has supposedly been burned to ashes after the tactical team accidentally shoots the detonator held by one of the robbers. Furious, Terry immediately sends all his best men to chase down Ryan's van. Luckily for Terry, his men manage to catch up and surround the van in time. But the moment one of them opens the back door expecting to see millions of dollars, they're completely stunned. Instead of cash, the van is filled with stacks of fake flyers covered with adult magazine photos. At the same time, Terry checks the vault himself and discovers the exact same thing. So where did all the real money go? The truth is, the robbery Terry watched on the CCTV cameras never actually happened inside the real vault. It was footage recorded inside Danny's fake vault simulation room, where the crew had already rehearsed the heist beforehand. Dell simply hacked the casino security system and replaced the live CCTV feed with the fake recording. Even the tactical police unit Terry called wasn't real. It was actually Ryan and the crew in disguise after Dell intercepted Terry's emergency call. Meanwhile, the real $160 million never left the actual vault at all. The moment the fake tactical team asked Terry to cut the power, that's when Danny's crew secretly packed up all the money and escaped using the security vehicles without Terry realizing it. Now convinced Danny must be the mastermind behind everything, Terry rushes back to the storage room to confront him personally. But unbelievably, Danny is already sitting there calmly, acting as if nothing ever happened. And because Terry has absolutely no evidence linking Danny to the robbery, he has no choice but to let him go if he wants to avoid legal trouble himself. That becomes the final meeting between Danny and Terry. As for Ryan and the rest of the crew, they wait for Danny across from the casino with the stolen $160 million ready to be divided equally among them. After pulling off the impossible heist, they all agree to retire from crime and start fresh lives as better people. The end. What we can learn from this movie is that self-improvement is a journey, not a competition. Focus on making small progress every single day. Complain less, take more action, and forgive the mistakes of the past. Because every small step you take brings you closer to your goals.